Chiron stations retrograde at 11:29 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday, July 19th. And until December 23rd, we will be encouraged to tend to our wounds and find healing. Let's break this transit down and take it through all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing mainly in relationship, natal, and predictive readings. If you are new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, and hit the like button as well. I appreciate all of that so much that I can't even speak. And if you'd like to work with me, check out the links down below to book a reading. So, what is Chiron? Chiron is not a planet. It's a centaur, which is kind of like an asteroid, which orbits the sun as well at various speed. It's sometimes it actually takes like a year or two. Sometimes it takes 8 years. And the story of Chiron is very interesting. I am a traditional astrologer. Personally, I use it in my practice because I find it very significant. Maybe because it's making a significant aspect to my moon in my chart. So it's, you know, it's very personal to me. But the story of Chiron in Greek or Roman myth, he was the son of Saturn, rejected by Saturn because he's born half man, half horse. And he is raised by Apollo, the sun. And he's raised to become a really wise centaur. Very different from the other centaurs because the other centaurs are not as interested in learning, education, and kind of, you know, overcoming or being like just wisdom in general. They're not interested in Greek or Roman myth. And so Chiron becomes this wise and spiritual teacher, and he makes healing potions and he makes poisonous potions. And then one day he's teaching Hercules how to fire a poisonous arrow, and he shoots himself in the foot. So Chiron wound is self-inflicted. It's something that he wounded himself. And of course, in our life, in our charts, it's not always a self-inflicted wound. Sometimes it's connected to other people, our childhood, our early conditioning. But there is a sense with Chiron that there is something about the wound that starts with the self or maybe continues with the self. So he cannot die because he's immortal, and for a while he has to suffer and he has to live with this wound until one day he sacrifices himself and his life in order to free Prometheus, who is connected to Uranus in Greek or Roman myth, who stole fire from gods, brought it down to earth, and as a punishment was tied to a rock, having his liver eaten out by birds, I can't remember what they are, every day. So Chiron sacrifices himself. So the message of Chiron is that we are wounded, and we all are somewhere in our chart. And in order to heal that wound, we may suffer for a really long time. It might take us a lifetime or a few lifetimes before we heal that wound. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just live with it. But we all have the power to work with it, and we can kneel to it and heal it by helping other people, which is what Chiron did. So Chiron, in a sense, is an outcast. Wherever you have Chiron in your chart, that sector of your chart, you may feel like an outcast. Or if it's connected to any of your personal planets, like the moon or the sun, maybe, especially the sun, like there might be something connected to your ego that makes you feel like very different from other people. Or if you have Chiron in the first house, there's multiple placements that make you feel, basically, yeah, like anywhere in your chart, wherever Chiron is, you likely feel somehow not fully belonging, right? That's the nature of Saturn. And like I said, by seeing other people with the same wound, by helping those people, or even with a different wound, by helping them overcome the difficulty you're going through, you can connect with it stronger. Chiron is currently in Aries, so of course the sign that Chiron is traveling through is highlighting the nature of the problems we're dealing with collectively. And Aries is the sign that deals with the self, that deals with these are my rights, this is who I am. And of course, in the US, we're dealing with a lot of social issues connected to that. So it's literally playing out on a global level. I mean, on a, US level. And of course, many other countries are dealing with their personal issues. But like in the US, the whole abortion story, it's like, what are female rights? What are the rights of the fetus? And all of those kind of things very much feels like Chiron and Aries, right? Like your body, your physicality is very much Aryan. But also it's something that makes us address self-doubt. If Aries is the sign that boldly goes where no man has gone before, when Chiron is in Aries, we start to question things. We start to second guess whether we have enough knowledge, whether we have the right map, whether we have enough skill to go to where we want to go. We are afraid of failure. We may sell ourselves short. We may doubt our own worth and our own success. So with Chiron going direct, we may be dealing with these issues openly. Maybe like, you run into an issue at your job and you have to overcome it. You have to kind of work with it. When Chiron goes direct, as any planet moving direct, and we get 5 months of it, right? Like we go from July until December. When Chiron goes retrograde, the nature of the planet becomes more introspective. So it's more about sitting with it quietly, reflecting with the problems, talking about them in therapy, journaling about them, maybe talking about them with a friend. But it's more about working with it inside. I find it very interesting that there is a lot of focus in our culture on healing things and a lot of focus on improving ourselves and fixing traumas, while sometimes we don't give enough attention to accepting traumas and caring for them in a way as in they're just part of who we are. It's about leaning into discomfort, not necessarily escaping discomfort. It's about accepting the discomfort as part of existence. You don't become a great healer sometimes before you have known pain. You don't become empathetic until you have known loss. So here I feel like, to me, because Aries is very much about the self, part of the healing of Aries energy is also just accepting that yourself has flaws. There are, scars on your body. There are stretch marks. There are bruises, pimples. I mean, those are temporary, but there's like things that are part of who you are, and not every part of you needs fixing. So just something to think about, because like there's so much focus on, like we need to get better and we need to fix things, but like you are perfect, even with flaws, even with pain, even without healing all of it. If you don't do it in your life, right? Like if you're 80 and you still have pain and regret, like you're perfect as is. But of course, even if we cannot fully heal, maybe we can become better versions of ourselves. So that's another quality that I think Aries has. And Chiron, overcoming that original rejection of Saturn, continued on to become a healer, a teacher, right? He understood what happened to him. He felt the pain and he became a great empowering character. So part of healing here, or part of working with it, like I said, is becoming a teacher, becoming generous with your time and energy. And then that whole message of becoming the better version of yourself. How can you achieve that? How can you be better, do better, help other people? I think is significant in terms of working with the energy. And like I said, Aries is about self. It's about bettering themselves. Like if you know any Aries people, they just act, they take charge, they prove themselves. They're not standing in one spot. So here it's also kind of like, how can you grow? And together with growth, hand in hand goes the need to work with others and help other people. With Aries energy, there might be a bit of impulsivity, a little bit of I want to get it done now. I'm over it. I want to be the best version of myself now. But you're actually encouraged to possibly take it easy and not rush and maybe retreat and go within and meditate and take it one step at a time, right? Like start with accepting, seeing yourself for who you are, understanding that, okay, you've done a lot of work, but there's still things that might affect you, things that are important to you, things that maybe you haven't fully healed, and that is okay. And then step by step, start by making small steps to take better care of yourself. This might be most significant for people with planets between 12 and 16 degrees cardinal signs: Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. For a second I forgot cardinal signs. It's been pouring in New York and it's kind of really cool, but also like doesn't make me want to go outside. So let's talk about it through all 12 signs and see what one might expect. I'm going to start with Aries, as per usual. So Aries rising, for you, this is happening in your first house. So you might take a moment to look at the parts of you that are hurt, the parts of you that feel insecure, the parts of you that maybe you have neglected, and use the next 5 months to slow down a little bit and to heal yourself. Maybe like if you have literal physical ailments, maybe it's the time when you start to do physical therapy, when you start to like nurture yourself and take care of your body. Being more attentive of the food you eat, the things you watch, right? Like I have recently had this, like during Mercury Cazimi actually, which happened on July 16th, I had this realization of like, it's not good for me to be on social media past 10 p.m. It's really not. And I think it's not good for most of us, right? Because you end up in some kind of weird state of mind, and it's when your body is supposed to be wrapping it up and quieting down. So maybe if you're an Aries rising, maybe you're making small adjustments, like even if you feel insecure, even if you second guess yourself, even if you have fears, but like start small, take action, go to bed at 10 a.m., wake up 10 p.m., wake up early, go for a run, eat healthy, change your diet, like to include more fruit versus sugary things, like, you know, processed sugars. Focus on what you need. What does your body need? And like, I think part of the process, part of the longer journey with this Chiron could be, because Chiron stays in Aries until 2026, so we're in it for a while. Woohoo! But it's also about like learning to ask for what you want and what you need. So maybe, you know, maybe you want more money professionally, but you are struggling to believe that you deserve it. So this could be a good time to focus on what you deserve. For Taurus risings, Chiron goes retrograde in the 12th house. And 12th house is all the things that we don't like looking at. We just shove things in the 12th house. We're like, this is not me, it doesn't bother me, it's not real, you know, it's not my problem anymore. So when Chiron goes retrograde, there might be certain issues that you shoved in the dark closet that come back, that come at you and make you look at them, especially things that deal with maybe self-defeating tendencies. Maybe it's some kind of past wound or a bad habit that you worked with but still needs attention. Like I know a Taurus rising who is a recovering alcoholic, you know, sober for a really long time, but around this time, some of the ways that this can manifest maybe as like looking back at how painful it was, looking at what was the source of their original addiction, right? So maybe you're kind of like looking at the underlying issue and paying more attention to what has caused any self-defeating tendencies and healing it. This could be a great time for Taurus risings to lean into therapy, to talk to a trusted friend, to journal, meditate, to go to water, spend some time by the river or the ocean, go to the beach and sort of connect with yourself. Addressing your negative habits, the ones that you have right now, could be quite important. Like, are you, but this 12th house is always tricky because a lot of people don't like looking at it, or they don't admit to themselves that they have issues there. but maybe it's as simple as like realizing that, you know, smoking is not good for you, and maybe it's time to let that go. And with the 12th house matters, because they are so invisible and hidden, you can really benefit from saying things out loud. If you have a problem with someone, if you have things that are unresolved, tell it to them, especially if this person is in your life and they care about your feelings. Like it's a little different if you still have feelings for someone you once dated and this person has moved on. Maybe you can just write to them. You can write a letter that you don't necessarily have to send if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to them, or if you don't want to disturb their peace. But yeah, like addressing things that no longer serve you, finding closure with the past problems could be quite significant right now. For Gemini risings, Chiron goes retrograde in the 11th house. The 11th house deals with groups, networks, social media, your hopes and dreams. So you may have to address the wounds connected to those matters. So friendships and relationships with people in your life, there might just be like, you know, Chiron, like I said, feels like an outcast. So maybe you are struggling to feel like you belong in the groups that you are a part of. But I would look at it really closely and be like, are you choosing people who don't reciprocate your feelings, who don't give back to you what you give to them? Are they not supportive enough? Or are you too guarded? Are there things that you're not sharing with them? Even frustrations, like if there's certain things that you don't feel happy about, maybe you should share it. Maybe you should tell it to people that are in your life. Maybe you should embrace being more vulnerable. And when it comes to like social media or recognition, if you feel like you're not getting enough recognition and you feel like you should be more known, more successful, trust that you are on your own personal path, and everybody is on their personal journey that doesn't have to match the other person's journey exactly. And things will come to you. And like focus also maybe on connecting with people who are feeling the same way. And you might be surprised because maybe you share your frustrations with a friend and they offer a helping hand and they come and help you and they're happy to share, you know, to understand you and connect with you. For Cancer risings, this affects your 10th house. So you may experience a certain wound, self-doubt, lack of confidence, uncertainty connected to your career. There might be literally a sense of like, I'm doing a lot, I'm investing a lot of energy, why am I not getting what I want to get from it? Any kind of like professional achievements, recognition kind of matter might be a sore topic for you right now. Look at the underlying issue once again, right? Like it's very rare that things are, like with Chiron especially, it's very rare that things are as visible and easy to connect with, because sometimes if you really seek professional achievement, right, like are you trying to prove something to your father who never appreciated you or who never like saw you and all of your achievements? Like, are you looking for your boss to validate you? Or maybe it is about a relationship with your family, right? Sometimes 10th house and 4th are a dyad, and like 4th is your family, 10th is your career. So they sort of like sister signs, they have things in common. So I would look at like things that you have learned from childhood that are still impacting your career. Is it the notion that you need to be successful in order to be loved? Is it a notion that you need to work crazy hours? Like, what kind of things that you are telling yourself or you have assumed are true are not true? And, you know, realizing that what you don't get professionally, if you don't feel satisfied with your professional achievements, sometimes it's not about having your boss tell you that you did a good job. Sometimes it's literally about feeling like you have helped people and getting one thank you, helping one person, right? Like, it's not always about helping everyone. It's impossible. Leo rising might have to address the wounds around beliefs, religion, faith, philosophy. travel. Ninth house is where Chiron stations retrograde for you, and ninth house deals with your guiding principles. It's the house that leads up to the 10th, right? So it's sort of like, what do you believe? How do you see yourself? Where do you see your place in the world? And what are your guiding, like moral standards? So around this time, you might realize that some of the things you believe are not correct, no longer correct, right? Like maybe this could affect religious matters too, or any sense of like belonging. I'm thinking with Chiron in the ninth house, like sort of rethinking your community somehow, or like, you know, your faith, what guides you, what matters to you. Similar, I'm thinking, to like Cancer and Chiron in the 10th house, like if, you know, kind of looking at things that you find important to you and maybe questioning, why are they important to you? Are they yours, or are they inherited? Are you seeking for like external validation as a part of fixing a childhood problem? There might be quite natural matters connected to religion. Like if you are a religious person, you might realize that maybe this religion has issues with it, right? Like maybe a perspective you had about a major social issue is not quite authentic. Do a lot of research. This could be a great time to sort of like look into things that you are curious about, study, maybe travel, talk to people who are different than you, who can open your mind somehow. For Virgo rising, this Chiron stations retrograde in the 8th house, and 8th house deals with therapy, healing. Sometimes 8th house matters deal with like death and fears that surround death or surround losing people. You might kind of look at what length are you willing to go sometimes in order to not lose someone in your life. And, you know, 8th house is death, but it's not always literal death. This could be something that is more about an emotional connection, a friendship, a relationship where you tend to sacrifice your personal needs in order to keep this person in your life. So 8th house Chiron retrograde could be about looking at things that you're holding on too tightly. Oh my god, the rain is just going nuts. It's really cool. I wish I could show it to you, but you can imagine just lots of water. I don't know if you can hear it. That's curious. But yeah, like addressing give and take dynamics in relationships, addressing your debts. Sometimes 8th house deals with topics of freedom, and it might make us question, like, how free are we? Are we engaged in some kind of contractual, or not even contractual, but like obligations and duties to others that are holding us back? So could be a lovely time to try and see how and what is holding you back. And maybe it's you yourself, but maybe it's actually something else. Maybe it's, you know, a relationship, a friendship, a person in your life. Great time for therapy, honest conversations, and renegotiating, putting up healthier boundaries. For Libra rising, Chiron stations retrograde in the 7th house. 7th house deals with one-on-one relationships and business partnerships. And Libra rising might have to revisit some of the self-defeating, some of the negative tendencies in relationships. Are you being too cautious? Are you being too attached to an image you have of an ideal partner and not accepting the real person in front of you who loves you and who is there for you through all the times? Are you focusing on people pleasing and keeping harmony in your relationships over satisfying your needs? Any of these questions, whatever resonates with you, could be quite significant at this time, and maybe it's your time to address your insecurities around relationships and address your people-pleasing negative tendencies. Look at the causes, right? Like, look at how it all started. Look at the relationship of your parents. Look at the relationship of you with your parents. There might be some like underlying issues, and definitely you know, like if you are in a relationship, see how you may be sabotaging the relationship, how you may doubt yourself as a valid partner and sort of like let your doubts spiral into your relationship and maybe affect it. And if you are single, but you want a relationship, or even if you're single and like you don't want a relationship, but you have a friendship that you're struggling with, or just, you know, like any relationship matters can show up here. Even it's like, even relationship with a parent or a child or a friend can be the subject of the 7th house matter. But take a moment to focus on your own needs and things that you desire versus thinking too much of other people. Like, right? Like you want a relationship. Why do you want a relationship? What makes you happy? Who are you on your own? If there isn't a partner, if like, you know, dating wasn't even an option or wasn't that significant to you, what do you want? Who you are alone is an important question. And acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses alone, accepting the wounds and challenges and traumas that you've been through, could be very much important for your healing. Yeah, like don't necessarily expect things to clarify right away, but you may have an important breakthrough around this time. As well as because 7th house represents your partner might be going through a harder time, so it's not necessarily you always. For Scorpio rising, Chiron stations retrograde in the 6th house. 6th house deals with your physical well-being, service, health, pets. So you may have to address and be more thoughtful about any of those matters. Paying attention to your physical well-being and taking care of yourself, because Scorpio, especially, you know, in a more shadow side of Scorpio, can focus on other people a bit much and get like obsessed with them and what's going on with them versus taking care of themselves. Looking at your habits and releasing some of your negative habits could be significant. Another Scorpio rising, I know, not in touch with anymore, but like they have struggled with a drinking problem for a while too. So looking at your negative habits, looking at improving your life and taking care of yourself, being a parent to yourself, being responsible for your own well-being could be very significant. Even if it requires expressing yourself and speaking your mind, you are encouraged, because like, you know, Chiron in the 6th, there might be like certain hypochondria, there might be a tendency to serve other people and take care of other people and put their needs second, because like 6th house has been for a long time like the house of servants. So make sure you're not taking care of other people and not just like sacrificing yourself and putting your needs second for the other person or for the cause. You are encouraged with Chiron being retrograde to find a better balance, to take better care of yourself. And 6th house deals with like legal matters, with medical issues. So I think it might be especially appropriate for you if you work in any of those fields. For Sagittarius rising, Chiron stations retrograde in the 5th house. So here we're dealing with a topic of pleasure and joy, and either overdoing it or underdoing it. Which one are you? Let me know in the comments below. But are you overindulging somewhere, right? Do you have a habit, like maybe you gamble, but then you feel like you don't gamble a lot, but then it ends up costing you. So paying attention to that. If you are not enjoying life too much, if you have been too focused on your family or too focused on other things and other people, how can you add more joy into your life? How can you put like, how can you reconnect with your inner child and let your inner child out, encourage them to play? Because it's not like, you know, grown-up life is filled with responsibilities and duties, but it doesn't have to be just about work all the time or about the other person or about like balancing things out. And you know, I have a Sag rising client that works really hard, like one of the Sag rising clients. I think most Sag risings can like be very hardworking in a lot of ways. So redefining what you love, redefining your relationship, even your romantic relationship and relationship to your children. What are your kind of self-defeating, self-negative notions there. Perhaps it's time for you to let something go and figure out what makes you happy instead. Could be very useful to look at your childhood and things you enjoyed doing as a kid and see if you have a lot of that in your life right now. For Capricorn rising, we go in the 4th house, and you're very much likely to look at your childhood. I'm sorry if you're not a fan of that, but like everything stems from the childhood. So 4th house, Chiron, retrograde. Questioning your family dynamics. If things don't feel fair, this might be the time where you express it and have a conversation and set up healthier boundaries with your family members. If you may have to, release certain unhealthy dynamic. If your parents are not around anymore, maybe you are addressing certain wound and pain connected to the loss. Additionally, 4th house sometimes deals with comfort and security. So maybe there is some way you can build a better, secure home for yourself, especially if you've been too focused on work or you've been too focused on other problems. Maybe there is a time to bit by bit slowly start to kind of like start nesting and taking care of yourself. And yes, there might be during this retrograde, there might be certain familial dynamics that are painful or that you're looking at that bring you frustration. But like I said in the beginning of this video, they are part of who you are, and it's likely that they have given you a lot of strength and a lot of success, or they made you. A lot of times the qualities that we most appreciate in ourselves stem from difficulty and challenges. So seeing the pain as part of who you are, seeing it as just like a different side of you that exists and that deserves to be, could be important on your path towards healing. And also differentiating between what is yours, what is your kind of true core value versus what has been inherited from your family that maybe you don't connect with anymore. For Aquarius rising, Chiron stations retrograde in the 3rd house, and this feels like you need to say what you need to say. And you need to learn to believe in yourself, because 3rd house deals definitely with communication and, self-expression. So maybe you second guess your words, maybe you second guess your ideas, and you don't speak up, you don't express your mind for the fear of being judged, for the fear of being ostracized, misunderstood, anything like that. So this could be the time when you speak your mind, or when you start maybe with people that you really trust and you share with them your ideas and you learn to believe that those ideas are valid. Try to not be overly sensitive with how people perceive you. I know it's hard. As someone who's on social media and sometimes getting all kinds of comments, sometimes it's like, it's not always to just be like distant from things, but try to separate maybe, the opinions of others from yourself and don't perceive it as a personal issue, because a lot of times people are just focused on themselves and they say things to you that you might perceive as hurtful because they're hurt and they're dealing with some kind of inner difficulty. So separating yourself from the views of other people can be significant. And 3rd house deals with your skills and your knowledge and your hobbies. So if you don't believe that you can take a skill and a hobby and a subject that you're interested in and turn it into a career, for example, maybe you should address that. Maybe you should work with that and look at where that stems from and where that belief comes from, because it's never too late to start a new career. It's never too late to start a blog. We're here now, right? Like the time is now. It doesn't matter if you do it at 20 or you do it at 50, never too late. And finally, Pisces rising. For you, Chiron stations retrograde in the 2nd house, and you're literally looking at your self-value and you're questioning what makes you worthy. Is it money? Is it professional achievements? Or is it something else? right? Like, is it about being a successful parent, for example? Have you been defining yourself too much by your salary? And is there a time to look at that again and maybe rethink it, right? Like, are you selling yourself short? Are you applying for jobs and sort of almost right away telling them like, hey, I like this job, but I'm not really qualified? Where can you build yourself up more? Where can you come at it and be like, I deserve this? And maybe fake it till you make it, right? Like, learning to believe in yourself, learning to express yourself can be quite significant. Like relationship with money can definitely be quite important for Pisces risings right now, because sometimes when even you know, like defining, even showing love through buying gifts for people, like maybe it's time for you to sort of like redefine that and understand that once again, like, no matter how much money you have, no matter the position you have, you deserve love regardless of the things that you have. And maybe, you know, maybe your greatest gift is that you are the best listener, or maybe it's about giving the greatest hugs versus having a lot of money in your bank account. Maybe it's how much you care about people in your life. There is a lot to be happy with and proud of. And likely, especially with Chiron in the second house, it's likely that you're great at building people up. So start building yourself up. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Chiron retrograde is here, and we can handle it. We can work with it. Nothing is, you know, dark and dangerous if you are aware of it. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye.